Good news, everyone!
It's Jake Ciely.
And there's a surprise in your cereal box.
I'm great! Everybody else sucks!
Let's get dangerous.
Yes, sir, random kid I just met!
It's time to check the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is All in Football, and that person, there we go, I put it the right way, is not Chris Meany. That is somebody I knew before Chris Meany, right? That is Joe Pisapia of Fantasy Pros at Joe Pisapia 17. Joe, you know what? All these years, I never asked you, what's the 17 for? In the Joe Pisapia
Great
17?
question. Great question.
Yeah.
It was my baseball number growing up, which was inspired by my baseball hero as a child, Keith Hernandez, the mustachioed one. You know, when you grow up in Brooklyn in the 80s, the Mets were actually the team to root for. I know that sounds crazy to everybody out there, but there was a window there from about 1984 to 1988 where things were really good. And ever since, it's been pretty depressing. But thanks for bringing up my childhood trauma. Anything you'd like to speak about in your childhood that's really
no, that was actually that's pretty. Yeah. No, that's actually your childhood. That was good childhood. It's the adult. Trauma.
It was. That's
the adult,
true.
That's the adult
it set
trauma.
Me up. You know, the problem, Jake, is in 1986. You know, that game 6. I believed that they were going to win, and then they did. And then my whole life, I just became an optimist somehow.
You started expecting things.
I was like, well, things are always going to work out. Little did I know.
See, this way, like when you're more of a 90s kid and barely remember that, you don't have those built-in expectations. That's just my expectations got built in with like the 1990 Giants. That's like more like where that came in. So
sure.
That's,
yeah.
And of course, they all suck now. Mets suck, Giants suck, Daniel Jones sucks, Zach Wilson sucks, and everything.
Zach Wilson
in New York
really sucks.
It really does.
It's a whole new level. He's actually great at sucking. Like he's actually he's prolific at being bad, which is pretty
Joe
awesome.
Pisapia will do the first time he comes on this show. But like we've been trying to make this happen. The first time he comes on, he's going to get us banned on YouTube by just saying things like that. We are talking week 4 ranks. It is week 4 already of the fantasy football season. We're about to be in October. We're about to be pumpkin spice latte filled lives going on because that's what everybody does. I don't drink coffee, but everybody does pumpkin stuff. I had some pumpkin bread already. I had some pumpkin donuts. I mean, like I'm embracing it.
Have you had the pumpkin dump cake? That's the thing, Jake Ciely. If you're a pumpkin guy, have you done this?
No.
It's very good. It's very easy. Even you can make it. It's just the canned pumpkin. Right, you have the cake mix. You basically put it all in there together. You bake it off. You put some crumbly graham crackers, like the cinnamon kind, on top. You serve it warm right out of the oven with some ice cream and whipped cream on top. Boom, there you go. There's your fall right there. Pumpkin dump cake. Go Google it.
So there you go. Everybody's got advice on pumpkin cake before we even get to the important stuff like the rankings. And De'Von, Duvernay, whatever the hell his first name is, and whatever the hell his last name is. Achane, whatever. Is it Achane, right?
Achane. Yeah, all day yesterday I got corrected. You know what pisses me off about this, Jake Ciely?
I already went on the rant on Monday.
It wasn't like a Senior Bowl. Nobody said anything to us. In college, this is what it came out as.
Apparently, he said something about it 2 years ago in a post-game conference.
Nobody cared.
The clip, and the clip is now surfaced. It is. He's a very quiet dude. Well, let's get to the important question. Is he an RB2? Like, because we know people are starting Raheem Mostert as an RB1, but is Achane? I just said it again. We've done it for so long.
Something. It's so hard to undo something.
Especially if you're somebody like who watches the college to do my rookie rankings every single year. It was so many. Like, I hear the announcer's name. They're saying the name like it's embedded. But anyway, so let's just call him Devin. Devin,
DA.
The running back.
DA yesterday. That's what I called
him. DA. Like B.A. Baracus, D.A.
Kinda, yeah.
The district attorney of the Dolphins at running back. Is he an RB2? Is he in the RB2 conversation, or is there still risk that he's an RB3 and this could, is the floor still potentially 3 points this week?
Well, I know in Fantasy Pros right now he's ranked as RB25. And I think that's exactly right. Like, he is right there pushing the envelope. He is right there on that precipice. Because, look, Jalen Waddle is going to be back, right? And you can't expect what you saw last week to happen. Now, I liked Achane coming out of college, and I liked it.
You said Achane and not
Achane.
Achane.
I like DA coming out of college. I liked him going out of college. I thought, look, what a perfect back for a team that just values speed, right? A team that, like, you don't have to get him the football 25 times. You don't have to get him the football 20 times. You get him the football 10, 12 times in a game. Something explosive and interesting is going to happen with that kid. And I think you kind of saw a little bit of that. Now, here's the problem. I don't think you can just anoint him as an RB2. I think that's dangerous because you don't know what the workload's going to be. Mostert is still very much there. Mostert was still very much effective last week, as he's been all season. Now, eventually he will break down, because that's just the story of Raheem Mostert. But I would say going into this week, I mean, look, I like him more than Dameon Pierce at 28.
Well, here's what I was about to do. So there's something, and I haven't been able to do this with Joe Pisapia. There's something we do on this show, and I was actually going to save it for somebody else, but this is a good spot because I was just about to say I actually have him at 27. And this range of running backs, as I drop the person that needs to be doing this with me. Hold on. As I pick it up.
You dropped a
live on the show.
You have a small
you will see why, because there's something we need to do when we're trying to figure out where to put this player versus other players.
When you drop that, you became a ghost there. Your white balance got all
I know
crazy.
that my white balance got all off. But do you know what we do on this show, Joe? Do you know? Because I don't think you do.
I had something with a duck.
No. We make a list.
Excellent. Old school.
You should have known that. You should have known.
I didn't know if you were still going down that well. I mean, that's like very 2000.
It's still part of the intro. It's forever the best.
Good. It is forever the best. It's the best thing
he's
ever done. Probably.
So let's do this. You already asked, and I actually have Dameon Pierce one spot in front of Achane, but I admit Achane. I'm so intent on like getting this right.
The only way I
higher
say
ceiling
yesterday was in Christopher Walken voice. I said De'Von Achane. I can't even worry about it. His name is so different than what it was yesterday. It's totally different now.
We'll call him the Scarlet Letter. No, the turquoise letter. The turquoise letter. I just gave him a nickname. He's the turquoise letter. So you are taking Achane over Pierce. Would you go Rachaad White or Achane? Rachaad White against the Saints.
I would against the Saints, Jake. I think I would. And that's the one that's, I think, so interesting because he is at 26 and Achane is at 25. This is going to be terrible.
We need to get the hell past this.
Can we get past this segment? No, but I think, look, if Eckler doesn't come back this week, I think you got to play him over Kelly too, right? Because of the explosiveness. Like, if Kelly wasn't going to be
Kelly
good against
30.
Me, well, that's what I mean. Like, but those are the guys in that conversation, and Kelly is that perfect guy where if he didn't smash against the Minnesota Vikings last week, then what the hell are we doing? Like, I mean, the Minnesota Vikings could not tackle or stop DeAndre Swift 2 weeks ago.
I am so ready for Kelly to finish his RB5 this week, just because, like, that's like
probably right. Yeah.
Like, and then we're going to get surprise sit from Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon's going to be RB4. Like, this is just because they both suck when they're in the lead, and then all of a sudden they're going to be amazing just because we're done with them. All right, so here's an interesting one. Breece Hall and that mess. Or, like, we're talking about the lead of a split or the back end of a split on a much better team, much better offense, much better, like, Achane or Breece Hall.
Well, I'll say this. I want to say that the Breece Hall is the guy. But I mean, the Dalvin Cook stats have been dreadful. Can we just talk about Dalvin Cook? Like, Dalvin Cook is droppable. I did that on my show on Monday. I just put it out there.
Here's a sidebar question.
Yeah.
Who is stealing more money from their team? Dalvin Cook or Daniel Jones?
Oh, Dalvin Cook is definitely stealing because I think Dalvin Cook's got nothing left. Look, Daniel Jones. Look, Jake, you know this better than anybody. When you take Saquon Barkley away and you look at the stats with and without Saquon Barkley of Daniel Jones, this has always been the case. Like, it's not good. And it wasn't going to be good against the 49ers probably even with Saquon. So
then why the bloody F did they pay him 4 times as much money?
Whoa, that's a lot from Jake Ciely this early in the morning especially. You got to go to 2 churches this week to get that done.
They should have franchised Daniel Jones and paid Saquon Barkley. Anyway, that's the result. All right, so
I don't think that's a good idea either. But Breece Hall, and let me answer your question. I think I would still play Breece Hall based off the volume. But it's a dicey situation. There's no doubt about it. Zach Wilson is
the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs' defense has been formidable.
They have been. But, you know.
All right, how about this one? Another split backfield and another lead of a split backfield. Maybe? Lead question mark? We're tying a lot of the running backs that I wanted to talk about today into this conversation. Najee Harris against the Houston Texans or De'Von Achane, bless you. Thank you.
I guess.
Wait. Before you even say this, because I just want to throw this out there because I think I know where you might go, but I want to throw this out there because I argued with Pat for 5 minutes about this, and I'm going to kind of like give you, it's my argument embedded in this whole thing. Like, I understand we want Jaylen Warren. I understand everybody out there is screaming and pounding the table. You and I joke about people pounding the table. Like, I get it. I referenced it last week. This is in my game breakdown. Again, reference it. Najee Harris, higher yards per carry, more explosive runs. By the way, Jaylen Warren still has 0. Jaylen Warren has 0 explosive runs, higher yards after contact per attempt, 3.14 to 2.71. All it comes down to is Warren gets used in the passing game, and that's where he looks good. And it's like, oh my God, he's using the passing game. Like, the biggest problem is they stopped using Najee Harris in the passing game. But if you take the optics out and sit there and say, like, wow, Warren looks better than Najee Harris is getting used in an unfortunate situation. Again, I'm not apologizing for Najee Harris to be a RB1. I didn't even have him as an RB1 this year. I just want to throw that out before we had this argument. Najee Harris or Achane?
I think I go Harris for all the reasons you just said, and the matchup here against Houston. I think I want to try to play against that too. So
if Najee Harris doesn't finish as a top 20 running back against Houston, is it done? Are we done with Najee Harris?
That's really tough. I mean, last year we made the excuse because he wasn't 100% healthy, which was fair, and then the offensive line was
But after
bad,
the bye, he looked good. After the bye, he was top 15 running back.
He did. So it begs the question here, are we back to offensive line issues? Is it just a matter of the teams that they've been playing? Look, I thought last week was going to be markedly better against. I thought, okay, the first week, I don't think people going into the season, and it's something that I talked about on FP shows all the time, was, hey, this Cleveland defense is really good, everybody. Like, you need to start understanding what they've done this offseason and what they've got is really special. And now everyone's on the bandwagon understanding it. It's one of my favorite value defenses of the draft season. But he faced San Francisco, the best run defense on the planet. Then he faced Cleveland. So last week I was expecting, all right, let's get a breakout. 19 for 65 is not a breakout. That's not it. But after this week, yeah, I think you hit the panic button. But what are you going to do? I don't think they turn it over to Jaylen Warren because, as you said, like, what's Warren done that's been so spectacular to really unseat him? I don't know if there's anything. So if anything, you have to open up the offense a little bit more and take some chances because I think you're just predictable right now if you're the Steelers. Their bigger problem isn't Harris or anything else. I think it's the play calling. They're just predictable. And Matt Canada, you just know what's happening every single time. You have to start to vary things. You have to throw the ball downfield. You have to try to take some shots. I don't care what Kenny Pickett's limitations are. If you continue to be so predictable, even the middling offenses are going to start to eat you up a little bit.
Well, and good friend of ours, Jay Felicio, over at The Athletic, over at FTN, everything like that. I just mentioned he's charting all the stuff for FTN, and that Canada is the problem. He keeps running him up the gut.
That is the problem.
He just
blame
boom.
Canada, Jake. Blame Canada.
There you go. Always. I mean, he's not even here to defend himself. All right, so I'll see if I get. Do I have any more that I want to say straight up versus Achane? Who else we got? Oh, I'll give you one more. Pacheco against the Jets. Or the second.
I take Pacheco because I think the scoring opportunities are going to be there for him. So I know he had the one touchdown last week. 15 for 62. Okay, that's decent. Caught a couple balls. He did have the touchdown. He finishes RB11. I'm just going to take the Chiefs offense over. I mean, I think that's what you have to do in that situation. So give me the Chiefs offense and the ability. I know it's a tough matchup. The Jets are very good on the defensive side. I would take Connor over De'Von also. But I think he's right there. I think he's right at 25, 26. I think that's the argument.
All right, well, I lied to you, which is fitting because Joe's on the show, so I lied to Joe. There is one last one. Brian Robinson has been a bell cow. He's actually top 10 in RB touches for his team, which is crazy to think about before the season started, which is great now if you had Brian Robinson. But against Philly, whose run defense, their pass defense has struggled, but their run defense is still fearsome and worrisome for matchups. So would you go Brian Robinson? This is kind of similar to the Rachaad White conversation, but a much better running back situation. It's the volume versus the potential and a better match. Like, so would you still continue to roll out Brian Robinson because he's getting all the work?
I would, unless I had a spectacular. I'll tell you what, like, if we get Alvin Kamara returning this week, I would go play Alvin Kamara. Like, I'm just.
How far up are you going, Alvin Kamara? I put him at 19.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's at 19 for right now. That's where he is.
Are you? I have him sandwiched between Aaron Jones and Ramondre Stevenson. I got the excitement for Aaron Jones, especially against Detroit, but Detroit's passing issues are the problem, like, and especially because they lost Gardner Johnson, is like their passing defense is a concern. Their front gets after not only the quarterback, they can limit the runs. I want to start Aaron Jones, but I think Aaron Jones at 18 and 19, because here's directly in front of him. Here's where I'll go. You have two returning running backs, one because of an injury, one because of suspension. I have Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara just in front of them. You tell me if you would put any of these running backs behind either one of them. Okay,
behind Jones and behind
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara. Okay.
Jerome Ford.
behind.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Let's
100%.
talk Jerome Ford then. Let's do.
Okay.
Why do you hate Jerome Ford, Joe?
I don't hate Jerome Ford. But like last week, I kept warning everybody. I was like, hey, just be careful because Tennessee's really good against the run. And he was 10 for 18. Okay. 10 for 18. If he didn't have 2 touchdowns, Jake, we are not.
He only needed 1.
I understand he only needed 1, but he had 2. So now everybody's doing victory laps about Jerome Ford. Now, look, Baltimore's had its struggles defensively. I'm okay. I don't think Ford's a bad start. But if Aaron Jones is on the field in an important game against the Detroit Lions, and this is the most important game that they've played so far, this is that in-division game, and it means a lot, which is why he didn't play on Sunday. They're trying to get him healthy here to Thursday night. I'm playing him. Kamara, I think, is going to have to be leaned on heavily in this offense, especially with Derek Carr out. Therefore, you have the injury to Jamal Williams. I'm in. So it's not a knock on Ford. It's just I like those guys better. I think Ford is a very good RB2 start this week against Baltimore, who has had their struggles. Let's be honest. But let's also keep it real. And 10 for 18 was not exactly something to write home about.
But the passing game work is enjoyable as well. By the way,
well, you mean the 3 targets he got, the 2 catches he got, and he happened to score.
No, that it wasn't completely evaporated just by the Kareem Hunt coming back. This is what my point being is. Like he's not.
But Kareem Hunt isn't back yet. Like, let's all put that in perspective too. And I don't love Kareem Hunt.
I don't think he is. There is no Kareem Hunt to be back. Last year's Kareem Hunt was mediocre. I don't think Kareem. Right. I think.
No, Jerome Ford you and I both know that if you signed him and you brought him in there, you didn't bring him in there to sit on the bench. He's going to get some work in there. So if he's got more time this week but some is enough that if he only got 10 carries last week, what does it look like this week?
I think it's going to be more because I think that was the situation of the Titans, which, by the way, I know is 2 touchdowns, but the crazy stat here for everybody is Jerome Ford, first running back. I threw this into the notes as well. Jerome Ford was the first running back to Saquon Barkley in week 1 of last year. And then only the second since Jonathan Taylor in week 8 of 2021 to score 17-plus points against the Titans defense. Like, that's how great their run defense has been. So, so I actually think he's in the Nick Chubb role. That's why when you said where's it going to go, I don't think it's going to change at all for him. But he's not Nick Chubb, which, by the way,
Jake, after the bye week he's got, look, if you think if you have Jerome Ford and you're like kind of worried, this is the time to get rid of him because you got a bye coming up in week 5. And then after that, you got the San Francisco 49ers defense. So it is not a great situation these next 3 weeks here for him. And you threaded the needle with those touchdowns this week. You take away those 12 points, all of a sudden he's got 6. And all of a sudden everyone's looking going, oh man, I just blew $50 on Jerome Ford. Come on, bro. Keep it real.
So are you saying you sell high on Jerome Ford? Is what
I'm saying you should kick the tires on it. Okay. I think I'd rather have Aaron Jones the rest of the season.
We spent all that time on Jerome Ford. Did Alexander Mattison, being the guy, did he give you enough in this week 3 to make you feel better about the fact that, they added Cam Akers? I have Alexander Mattison at 16 in front of Ford, Jones, and Kamara.
I would have Ford ahead of Mattison because I think that O'Connell's got to do something different here. And maybe it's getting Cam Akers some touches. And if he gets some touches, look, people forget it was very close. It was not a fumble, but it could have been a very costly fumble down there. It got overturned, but it was there. Like Madison's in trouble right now, I think. And I think this is why they made it. I know he had a good game against the Chargers. When you look at the stat line, 20 for 93 is good, 5 for 32. Like he did everything he wanted. He had his RB1 finish. And maybe this was the motivating factor they thought he needed. But I don't think they made that trade for Cam Akers to just sit there and collect dust. I really don't. So
I do.
I don't think
so.
Why do you think that?
For 2 reasons. For 2 reasons. So I was having this conversation with a buddy on the phone who's actually like a fan of Mattison. So I was like, to give you it's Deonta Foreman. So here's Deonta Foreman comes into this. Deonta Foreman, Achilles injury, comes back. He's like, man, he's done. He might not even be the league anymore. And we're like, we're ready to bury him. And he's dead. And then all of a sudden he had that like 3 or 4 games. And it was like, ooh. It was like, oh my God, people can actually still play coming off an Achilles. And what has Foreman done since then? Here's where I'm bringing that up. Cam Akers comes back, does nothing all the way through most of last year. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, he hits that 5-game stretch. And now he's back this year.
Well, they gave him the football in all fairness.
No. But they gave him the
nothing was him sitting in the doghouse of Sean McVay and him throwing him milk bones.
No. He was not. He definitively did not look good until he actually had that run at the end of last year. He comes in the first game. You asked me why. I'm telling you why.
But I'm saying it's hard to definitively look good if you're not getting any carries in games. And he
was getting carries. He took them away after he wasn't doing good. And then he gets the carries in the first week of this season and looks, literally, I'm telling you, like, watching him play the first week was awful. It was beyond awful. It was 22 for 26. It was awful. And Kyron Williams in that same game was amazing. I say, like, just comparing, this goes to the Najee Harris, Jalen Moore thing. All I'm saying is, what if the Achilles is like, hey, you can return, and you might get this little brief second win, but that's it. Like, you still don't come back from Achilles. And that's what I'm saying. And what are you talking about the trade? They gave him a 6th for a 7th in 2026. That's irrelevant. Like, are we even going to be alive? Like, Jesus is coming in 2025. This pick isn't even going to matter. We weren't going to be talking Cam Akers. Like, I'm kidding for everybody out there. Like,
mad at you at the show for all of your blasphemies that you spoke earlier. So
I know.
This is 2 for you, Jake. That's a lot of rosaries. If you were Catholic, you'd have to say a lot of
They are. So, anyway, I think Alexander Mattison is fine. I'm not worried about Cam Akers. I'm not. I'm legitimately not. Did Joe Mixon do enough to make you feel good about that? Because without his touchdown, we could make the argument that it was like, that's an okay game for Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon was that perfect example of a guy who was going too high for just because in drafts. Like, just because he's Joe Mixon. This week against Tennessee, no, I don't like him. Like, again, if you want out of the Mixon business, this is your chance. Is it going to look good against Tennessee? No, it's not. Now, after that, he gets Arizona and Seattle. Okay, that's much better than the bye in week 7. Then San Francisco. San Francisco seems to be like looming for every running back that we talk about today. But my concern with Mixon is the greater concern, I should say, with the offense of the Cincinnati Bengals, which is this point in time. Now we're at the Bengals just holding on and hoping and crossing their fingers every time there's a snap that Joe Burrow doesn't have a greater re-aggravation of that injury. Because if and when that happens, that's when everything just completely falls off the map. So I think this is a very unique spot where, for those people who aren't, in leagues that are super sharp, you float Mixon out there, you might be able to get more than you realize. People think, oh, Burrow played awesome, Mixon scored a touchdown, awesome. Tennessee is a tough matchup this week. And again, if and when that happens, it's not.
I'm at 15. And just only because he's Mixon. Yeah. Like it's just the volume. I could see making the case for
Aaron Jones or Joe Mixon rest of season.
Going forward? Yeah, Aaron Jones. If I knew he was 100%. That's my biggest concern, is just what's the health.
This is the National Football League. No one's 100%, Jake. Don't you know that?
Obviously. Don't skirt the question. All right.
No one's 100%, Jake. It's the National
Here's
Football
2 more. Actually 3 more. These are interesting. So Jahmyr Gibbs against the Packers. Should he be almost in the RB1 conversation?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jahmyr Gibbs he's 12 right now. Again, it's funny. You asked the questions about Achane. You got it. Achane. You asked the question about Achane, like, is he an RB2? And he's at 24 in FP. And is Gibbs an RB1? Well, he's at 12. So what it tells you is, somebody is knocking on the door of that. And yes, you can start him as such, depending on what your roster looks like. But you also have the expectations of failure too, where that's also kind of built into the ranking. But Gibbs is a talent that I love. 17 for 80 last week. You add in a touchdown, he goes from being an RB2 to an RB1. So I think Gibbs is sitting on a very special season. Gibbs is a guy that I'd be like, if you can get Gibbs from Mixon, man, I'd do that in a second, because the rest of his season, I think, is much better, favorable schedule too. He's also going to have 2 games against the Chicago Bears at some point too. Let's not forget about that. So there's a lot to like here, I think, when you're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs in the latter part of the season.
All right. So here's one. And I got asked, why do you love him? Why do you have him so high? Because he's getting the passing game work back. This was what the Eagles stripped from him. And now the Carolina Panthers have given Miles Sanders the passing game work back. It's, of course, not all of it, but Miles Sanders against the Vikings at 13? Am I drunk? Am I crazy? Like, no, I don't like to like Miles Sanders, but I think he has to be here.
I hate to like Miles Sanders, but he has to be here. And I hate agreeing with you even more. So
okay, well then here's the bigger one.
It's terrible.
I hate this one because I think this is no. Here's why. He's an average. Well, he's above average, but above average might so if we were doing a scale of 10, I'd probably say this running back is a 6. So he's like barely above average. Like a movie you can put on by also watch a game at the same time type of thing. Zach Moss. But because of the scenario he's in, it's helped. Like you flip Zach Moss and James Conner, and James Conner's already been an RB1 so far. James Conner's probably in the top 5 conversation in his situation. Like the role is why Zach Moss at RB12 feels so gross, but I think is Zach Moss not better than every name we've named so far? At least for now, until Taylor. And what is Taylor even coming? I'm gonna double down on a question for you, Joe. So Zach Moss, does he deserve to be in the RB1 conversation?
How many questions are you gonna ask me before I have to answer one?
I'm gonna possibly get as many as possible.
You're the worst.
No, there's only two.
Ever.
There's only two. Zach Moss, RB1 conversation, and part 2. Do you think Jonathan Taylor even plays for the Colts? Like, is Zach Moss? Is Zach
the latter part? I think that Jonathan Taylor and the Colts might be a relationship that's beyond mend, and I think more to that point, I think there's enough running back concern with a lot of teams that have contention desires that Jonathan Taylor should be a trade target of theirs. Like if you're the Baltimore Ravens, Gus Edwards is out, right? You've already lost J.K. Dobbins. Like, what are you doing? You could win this division if you went all in. Do you have the cojones to do it? I'm just saying, I didn't even mean to do that, but I did. It's true. But if you also look at some of these other rosters too, to tell you the truth, I know the Rams don't have a lot of capital, but Kyron Williams isn't the long-term answer either. And I know people are mad at me when I keep saying that, but he's not the long-term answer to the running back solution there. So if you bring in Jonathan Taylor into that offense that wants to run the football, okay, well now that's really interesting in the McVay offense. What I'm saying is there's opportunity here for a lot of people. And I give the Dolphins a lot of credit for saying, you know what? We're not going to pay that cost. We're going to just be clever, because being clever for Mike McDaniel has really worked out. Go ahead. Give me your scenario.
No. Scenario. I was agreeing with you. Scenario on that part is what the Dolphins scenario is like. That's why they don't need to chase, is because they can do that for their running backs.
They can.
It's similar to 49ers. They make every running back good. The Shanahan magic, the Midas touch of Shanahan with running backs got passed on to Mike McDaniel. He also has.
Well, he was the run game coordinator for them. So I mean, why is that shocking? Mike McDaniel was that guy.
Your Kyron Williams mention, I actually even said that he might be considered a sell high, because Kyron Williams has the volume. I even put this in this at 15.7% of the team target share. Like, he's got the volume. So what happens now with Cooper Kupp? But even that, let's just say he keeps the 15%. These are the names he's alongside of explosive plays and yards after contact, two pretty telling things of running back production. These are the names he's alongside: Dameon Pierce, A.J. Dillon, and Joshua Kelly.
Not good.
Those are not three names you want to be next to.
Who's on the explosive list that's doing well that hasn't popped in fantasy yet? Like that's
hasn't
actually
popped. That would be. I know. I'd have to pull it up because I wasn't ready for that. Just ask me questions.
Well, if you can ask me 12 at once, I figure I can ask you one.
Is there a question that I don't even know? Let's go back to it. You never answered. Does Zach Moss deserve to be in the RB1 conversation?
Zach Moss.
Zach Moss.
Yeah, the Zach Moss.
He's friends with De'Von Achane.
I would say this. I would say that Moss, you have to rank as an RB1 this week against the Rams. You have no choice. The volume, as you clearly said, is there. 18 for 88, 30 for 122. He's getting fed the football. They got rid of Deion Jackson. I mean, Trey Sermon is not like I'm not worried about that. Like, Zach Moss is going to be the guy. Now, here's the question. Week 5, right? That's when Jonathan Taylor can come back. That's also when they face who, Jake? The Tennessee Titans. So, I mean, you talk about like when you're trying to make trades, looking at schedules are really important. If you think a guy
nobody wants Zach Moss, that's the problem.
Nobody
wants him.
But there are some teams in your league that might need Zach Moss right now. It's not about want. Like, nobody wants to put Zach Moss as an RB1 this week in the rankings, but guess what? The expert consensus has him at freaking 11. So it's not a matter of, it's at 11 right now.
But here's the thing. It's like everybody knows it's potentially, like, even though we sit here and say, like, Jonathan Taylor, like, I actually even said last week that Zach Moss could be considered a buy high coming off that game because of it. And yes, it's only going to get, as you mentioned, you can only get 2 more games. But what if Jonathan Taylor, like, you get past the Titans, and if Jonathan Taylor's not on this team, Zach Moss is still going to be a top 15 running back. Like, that's the issue here. And you're going to be heading into buys.
But also the 2 games came with Gardner Minshew mostly playing. So when Anthony Richardson comes back, some of that rushing equity and some of that touchdown equity.
He had a decent chunk before Richardson left that game.
A decent chunk, but I'm just saying, but it was also a decent chunk against the Texans. So, like, let's also put that in perspective.
Well, part of it is the Colts offensive line there opening lanes big enough for, like, me to drive my car through.
That is also a fact, but
which is the only way I could gain yards in the NFL, by the way.
Probably. You're gonna get Tennessee,
not probably.
then Jacksonville, then Cleveland.
If I line up running back, you would be coming to my funeral the next day.
There's Jake in a Mazda Miata trying to drive through the offensive
I'd still
line.
Get stopped for 2 yards.
Tennessee Titans week 5, Jags week 6. Okay, fine, but then the Cleveland Browns week 7. Like, Zach Moss, Cinderella story could be coming to an end. And then when you factor in, well, Taylor's coming back, there's that uncertainty. You know, I'm not saying you can get a lot for Zach Moss, but it's better than nothing. Like, it's better that you look at it and go, okay, can I get something? Because I think there's a lot of teams right now that
so that's my point is I don't think you're getting anything more of like, here's the extra piece in a 2-for-1 trade.
Well,
and at that point, like, just sold.
Chubb's out. Aaron Jones.
I'm just telling you. Like look at the Yahoo trades. They're pitiful.
Out.
They're well, okay. Well, there you go. If you could get David Montgomery, I'll give you something like that. To go back, Stephen Drake's asked the question. We spent the whole first 5 minutes on Achane. I actually said it right. Look at that. Achane. So, yeah, go listen to that for that part. But I do want to flex Atwell, Dell, Warren this week in a half-point PPR. What's your answer, Joe? Because I want to talk about Atwell and Dell at some point. So this works out well.
That grouping, I want to start Tank Dell. Like, I know Atwell's been really steady, but I think Tank Dell has become Stroud's kind of go-to guy. And I guess we should have all listened to what happened at the draft. Like, sometimes I think that stuff can be overrated. And this is the role that I was hoping John Mechie was going to fill, but he hasn't. It's been Dell.
I think a lot of us did. I was hoping Mechie would. It was part of it. It was like story too.
We were right about the role being there, and for that niche wide receiver, we were just about the wrong guy. Which is
here's my concern. Here's still my long-term concern. Joe Pisapia, do you know the history of wide receivers in the NFL that are 5'6", sub 170 pounds that have finished with 1,000 yards in a season?
Does it have zero history? Is that what you're setting me up for?
Yes, it is a big fat zero. And
but in all fairness,
there's a reason for
that stat. It's also a very different league. You don't have those guys
you're not wrong,
over the middle,
but it still hasn't even happened in the past 15 years that made Cole Beasley relevant. Like that's just like
sure.
It's, and you know, so I'm just saying it's still concerning long term. Like I just. Here's my concern.
You asked me this week. You didn't ask me as dynasty.
Oh, that's sure. So, no. That's why I want to phrase this going forward. Is I've seen this question in my waiver column. I've seen people asking on Twitter, which is very like the worry now is what people have said. What happened in week 3? I don't think it continues. I want to see week 4. But if week 4 repeats what I'm about to say, Joe, in week 3. Nico Collins was only out there in 3 wide. Now here's the converse of that. Inverse. Yeah, and I was like, I gotta pull out my sneakers.
No,
the inverse to that argument is that the Houston Texans are top 5 in running 3 wide. So that's not a huge issue. But if Nico Collins is only in 3 wide, is that telling us Tank Dell is the number 1 option on this team ahead of Nico Collins now? Who we were just super excited about for the first 2 weeks.
I'm still excited about Nico Collins. But I'm excited about CJ Stroud. And I think that's the biggest piece of this puzzle is I think.
You want to know how far I went with CJ Stroud?
Well, I said he was the best quarterback coming into the draft this year, and I still put
no. I was going to say
number 2 overall when people were telling me Will Levis the week before, and I'm like, you're drunk.
Oh no,
stop with the Will Levis.
That was dumb as.
He should have gone 1 overall, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
but again, what are you gonna do? Go.
We're gonna like. Because we're not in the same flex leagues this year. You're in the super flex. I'm in the single because I had to fill where the spot was. But I took my giant bag of Danny Dimes and I dropped them for CJ Stroud.
Hey, last week in the CBS Experts League that we're in together, I think you're in that one with me too. I benched Justin Fields and streamed CJ Stroud. And I was like, oh man.
All right, so we just moved into quarterbacks. We're just transitioning through this.
To their point too, Atwell's a nice floor play. Like if you're still a little afraid of Tank Dell, I get it. All I'm going to say to you is the Pittsburgh secondary has not played well. So if you're looking at your lineup and you just need your 12 points, then Tutu's fine. Like he'll get you 12 points. But if you're looking at your matchups and you don't like your running backs, and you don't like what's going on.
Talk about a ticking clock.
Tank Dell has the upside. Yeah. Well, ticking clock for who? For Tutu?
Tutu, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
there's another guy too. If he has a good week, you trade him. You know, you got to sell.
If you can, I would almost trade him. Maybe
completely disappears in this offense. When
Puka or Tutu?
Either.
Oh, Tutu, yes. Puka, I say says a wide receiver 3.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think he continues going forward.
Kupp can actually continue to stay healthy and play. That's a big.
And that's the upside. That's why there's another I would consider buying high because people are going to have this ticking clock in their head and they're like, oh my God, Cooper Kupp is coming back. Puka Nacua is about to be a big fat nothing, and I don't think he's a big fat nothing. I think Puka Nacua should be in the same conversation for me as Jacoby Myers, who I think is just inside the top 30 wide receivers because the volume. Obviously, this week is different, but they're the only 2 wide receivers that are both in the top 5 teammates with over 30%. They're almost at 40% route run targeted. So like that, it's an insane number. Like that's all the two. That's it on the Raiders. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. The end. End of story. Maybe some Josh Jacobs. So I'm saying that to say, I think that Nakua and Jacoby Myers are in a very similar conversation when Cooper Kupp comes back. And I'm okay with that. But let's go back to quarterback, because how far down would you go for Justin Fields and Daniel Jones? I'll give you my answer. My answer is I have them 16 and 17 back to back, and I still don't love it. Is that too high? No. Is that too high? For like, let's be honest. Justin Fields is putting up 14 points per game. The biggest thing, he's not running. He's only on pace for 650 yards. He's like super not running all of a sudden. And Daniel Jones has one good game. But Daniel Jones, by the way, is behind Mac Jones on the season, despite being the QB1 in week 2. That's how bad it's been for Daniel Jones in the other 2 weeks.
I think, look, this is your angry Giants fan coming out. So first on Daniel Jones, he's QB 11 on Fantasy Pros right now in the ECR rankings. I think that's too high.
They're drunk.
I think that's too high, but I think you're too low. The terrible games came against the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, the 3 best defenses in the NFC. And again, without Saquon, his numbers are never going to be good. But he is playing the Seahawks this week. Seahawks
then let's play it.
Jamal Adams is hurt. Like, to me, I just look at that and I say, I don't think he's a QB1, but I think he's in that precipice. Like, I would rather play Geno over him.
Okay, no, we're about to do that. Also, by the way, Daniel Jones, nighttime Daniel Jones is actually take off the mask. Oh, look, it's Kirk Cousins for everybody out there. He is also just as bad in night primetime games. Just go look it up. The numbers are just as bad. Anyway, and also, I'm saying that a little semi-tongue-in-cheek because we all know that's relative. Like, it's not just like, oh, it's nighttime. He doesn't know how to play at night.
Well, wasn't the nighttime game, wasn't it a night two where he had the run where he sniped himself, where he was running for the end zone?
The turf monster got him?
Turf monster got him. That was in a prime time. Because I remember watching that like at nighttime, like falling asleep to it in my bedroom like that. I was like, I love that was a nighttime game. Going,
the little video that the people made where like he trips over and it's like the do. It starts floating through everybody knows the one. I don't know what the name of that song is. I don't even know that song has lyrics. But anyway, all right, let's play this game then. You said Geno Smith.
That song instead, to be honest.
I wonder if Google, when you can say, "Hey Google, what song is this?" I wonder if it would get it.
Could you do that right now on the show? Can we do that?
We'll see. Maybe while you're answering this question. So you said Geno Smith. I have Geno Smith ahead in front of Daniel Jones as well. I gotta find it. I'll find it. Here, I'll pull it up while we're doing this. Would you go Russell Wilson at Chicago or Daniel Jones?
Russell Wilson.
Okay. Brock Purdy. Yeah, Brock Purdy against Arizona.
100% Brock Purdy over it.
Okay. Jordan Love against Detroit.
Over Daniel Jones.
I would.
I think you have to. Look, he's put up minimum 20 points 3 games in a row. Has it always been pretty? No. But I think you have to. I do agree. The Daniel Jones ranking at 11 is drunk, and it's early. But I think as the week goes on, people are going to understand it. They should adjust that.
Okay. How about Deshaun Watson? Did you see enough in week 3 against Baltimore to start?
I don't need to see enough. I don't need Deshaun Watson to look good. I need him to run. I'm keeping it 100 here. Deshaun Watson's value right now, if he ever figures it out again, it's all based on whether he's using his legs or not. So as long as Deshaun Watson is running the football, and he's probably going to have to run against Baltimore too. Look, 45 yards, 22 yards, 16 yards rushing. Like the 16 was a little underwhelming last week, but against Tennessee, so I'm going to give him a break because that front's really good. So if he can get back into that 25-30 range, somewhere in there, like I don't know what the total is. I think it's always a good thing to do if people, as you start to overlap the betting world and the fantasy world, look at what they set the lines for on guys for rushing totals for quarterbacks. It's a very telling thing sometimes of how you should feel about them. Like last week, the line was way too low on Patrick Mahomes. It was 17.5. I smashed it. It was my lock of the week. And of course he went way over it. But I think looking at the Deshaun Watson total, I imagine it's going to be somewhere closer to 20. And that should be a pretty good fantasy day if he hits that.
Okay. It's just the 2 quarterbacks we're talking about, Justin Fields versus Daniel Jones. Who are you playing? I'm playing Justin Fields against Denver.
Well, look, you should play everybody against Denver right now. But, I guess here's that question, Jake, as we sit here and do we say they got so embarrassed? It was so national. Like they were replaying that game last night on NFL Network. Like they were, they were, everyone's been talking about it. There's memes everywhere.
You keep talking. I'm going to mute myself as I do this.
That's fine. I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would do it as an underscore to my discussion.
Hey, Google, what song is this?
But I think the Denver Broncos defense, at the end of the day, will either find its self-respect or not this week. That was good. That was fun. Good theater.
It's still thinking. That's how bad it is.
We're all still thinking. It's up, and the answer is?
I don't know. Let's see.
Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson. No.
No. I said try again. We talked too much afterwards.
Mbop by Hanson.
Somebody remixed that recently.
No. Why?
I don't know. All right. So, wait. There was one more. Oh, Jared Goff I do have behind both because he's on the road. What do we know about Jared Goff? Outdoors on the road specifically. He actually plays somebody well.
Indoor cat. Jake, he's an indoor cat.
Yes.
That's what I always call Jared Goff. He's an indoor cat.
That's actually very good. Matthew Stafford against the Colts versus Daniel Jones. I actually feel he's the floor play between those. Like if you wanted the safe points, Matthew Stafford against the Colts versus those.
I like Matthew Stafford against the Colts more than both of them, to be honest. Well, the thing with Fields is, again, it's that rushing equity where I think if I had to put it together, it would be a cluster of Fields, Jones, and Stafford, like kind of 1, 2, 3 like that. But at the end, if I was staring at Daniel Jones and staring at Matthew Stafford and staring at Daniel Jones without Saquon, now they have had 10 days to prepare to pick themselves off the mat. I like that. Stafford's on a shorter week. Colts secondary is not great. So I don't know, man. Like this is a tough one. I also think Matthew Stafford I like better in controlled environments too at this stage in his career too. He went outside in Cincinnati on a Monday night and it wasn't nearly as good as, when you're in a dome somewhere or in a controlled environment. So I think that's one thing too, where I might lean Stafford as a safer play. I don't think it's wrong, but look, they've been terrible, but the schedule and the injuries have not been kind to Daniel Jones, whereas Justin Fields' situation is just a hot mess.
So thank you to my Google search. What is the guy flying through space doo-doo-doot song meme? It worked. It is actually Shooting Stars by Australian electronic duo BagRaiders. It is BagRaiders song Shooting Stars. There you go.
I remember as a kid waiting outside as a teenager for the BagRaider concert tickets. We slept out there the night before. It was fantastic. I'm going to send you a BagRaiders t-shirt.
BagRaiders Shooting Stars original.
Now he's Googling it. This is great television, Jake.
Yeah, this is why. As I get my freaking White Claw ad for people who still drink that on the beach with their fake tans and whatever the hell else.
You have a White Claw ad in your show?
No, well, not my show. On the thing. I was pulling it. Yeah, this is what this is all about. Screw your. Yes.
BagRaiders.
Now you know what I'm talking about. Oh, there are lyrics.
Yeah.
No, there are lyrics.
Oh, there you go.
There are. I have to look them up another day.
Wow, we went a long way for that. I hope the audience enjoys that because we went a long way for that.
Oh no, nobody's listening after this show anyway. That's why we're doing this as much as fun as we can because this is it. This is the end of all in football. This is why you get to come in for the final show of all time. Like everybody's just gonna tune in and be like, I should have stopped listening a long time ago.
You're getting canceled?
Yeah. I'm getting canceled after you came on. I knew that. That's what I was going to do the last show.
Well, if you're going to go out with a bang. That's what I say.
Let's go back to Jordan Love. Would you start for Thursday Night Football if you're listening to this show on Friday or Saturday in your area and timeline, whenever you start Christian Watson first game back off of injury?
Yes, I think I do.
Okay.
He's so explosive, Jake. He's such a playmaker. He does so many, I understand that at times there were problems with drops last year, but you get the football in this guy's hands and it's a touchdown. Like he is just a special talent. So I'm going to say yes. I'll take the lumps on that. Even if he's rusty, I don't care. I know Romeo Dobbs has looked really good. Jaden Reed, I think, is useful, but I think Watson has to go back as in flex. Unless you have some really stacked team or it's one of those 2 wide receiver leagues that I hate. Like, why are we playing in 2 wide receiver leagues? Let's play in 1 running back league.
A lot of people still do. Yeah.
I know, but
which,
like,
by
think
the way,
about that.
As a quick sidebar.
Do we play 1 running back?
We got to start rapid fire some of these. We wasted I wasted way too much time. But I was going to say, I saw somebody ask me for a trade. It was 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. And it was great value, but he was getting 3 pieces to 1. And I was like, in that size of league where you're only starting that few, no, you need to get the best player every single time because you need the stars. The stars are the stars of stars. All right. Would you play London in London? London, baby. Would you play like is Drake London start? Who's more startable going forward? Drake London or Jahan Dotson?
We did this question yesterday on stage.
Did you?
Did you? Same question somebody asked me. I said this. I said I think London because Dotson still has Terry McLaurin in that offense, and that offense is going to be up and down, but there's still other pieces. I mean, I know Kyle Pitts is theoretically around. At least I've been told he's still there. But I think it's Drake London because last year the target share was there in the offense. So it's kind of built in. So I'm just going to play the volume game. They're both very good talents.
The volume game,
quarterback play, I'd be so excited.
The volume game would be top 10 for Dotson if we only included the first quarters. Like, it's just
that's true. It's like they get away from him, or I don't know.
35% in the first quarter. I don't get it. All right, Zay Jones likely back this week, not definitive, but if he is, Zay Jones when he's been out there for every brief time, it was preseason and week 1 was our sample. He was week 2 until he got hurt.
He's so hit and miss. He's so.
So would you, if you only had to start one, would you start Zay Jones or Christian Kirk?
That's a good question. I think Kirk is the floor play. Zay Jones is the upside, I think.
Boom.
I think when Zay Jones is on the field, I think he has more touchdown equity than Christian Kirk does with Ridley in this offense.
Is Sutton the better Bronco than Jerry Jeudy?
I think it's too early to say that because Jeudy was coming back from the hamstring injury, and I don't know how healthy he was when he came back. But I will say this. I mean, Courtland Sutton did have the best game of any Broncos wide receiver this year.
Okay. Here's a sell high and buy low. Would you say?
I don't know if I want it. Hold on a second. Do I want to sell high this week? No. I want to wait and have him do it again against the Bears and build a little bit more equity.
What if he doesn't do it again?
Well, okay, but I don't think you can get that much.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, live on the show. Let's pretend we're in the same league. KC. No. Let's pretend we're in the same league. Jake Ciely sends you an offer of Jerry Jeudy straight up for Courtland Sutton. Do you take it? Or maybe not me. Nicole Ciely. She has a team in our league because you would never take a trade from me. So
that's not true. We've made trades before, you and I. They're just hard.
That is true.
Because you lowball everybody. As if we're not all doing this for a living. Proper value. Proper Jake Ciely value. I would say that it's too soon for me to get off the Jerry Jeudy train.
So you would take Jeudy over Sutton?
I would take Jeudy over Sutton, but I would not be surprised at the end of the day if that backfired on me. And I think that's what's so frustrating about the Denver Broncos offense this year is because they have no identity. You don't know what they are. I want them to start running the damn football with Javonte Williams now. Like, enough is enough. You got to give that guy 15 to 20 carries this week. And
I have Javonte Williams as a buy low. Here's one for you.
Me too.
Let's see if you can guess the name. Of receivers with at least 30% of his team target share, 30%. This wide receiver is the only one not averaging at least 11.3 fantasy points per game. He's down at 7.4. Do you know who it is?
30%? And he's down at 7.4?
Yes. Big name. Gosh. Big dude.
Big name, big dude. Okay.
Yeah. Used to be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL.
Is it Mike Evans?
No, but similar.
He's done
DeAndre Hopkins.
Well. Hopkins. That makes sense.
My biggest
Hopkins
fade of the year was
Hopkins. Yes. Hopkins shouldn't have been drafted where he was going. That was absurd. And this is what it happens every single year, and we fool. Last year with Julio Jones is when I drew the line in the sand. I was like, don't chase this. I know it's
But Tom at least Brady, Hopkins is getting the volume that Julio Jones is not getting.
I understand that, but at a certain point, these wide receivers turn into pumpkins. And once you cross that 30 mark, that's when you like AJ Green, Julio Jones. I mean, we can go on and on all day with all these guys. And Hopkins is like, okay, what's so exciting about Hopkins? He's going to be the number one with what? With Ryan Tannehill. Okay, that's not really exciting. When Ryan Tannehill gets hurt and it downgrades in quarterback, then what happens? And you're already talking about older wide receivers.
Because we're up against the time here. Would you bench Hopkins for Adam Thielen?
Yes. Oh, that's not even close.
What if it's Bryce Young? What if it's Bryce Young? Would you still do it?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay. Would you bench DeAndre Hopkins for Tavon Austin?
Ugh. No, but I should. Is that exactly? What would you do? Would you?
I would still go Hopkins for the volume is just Tannehill looks like trash. When do they make this switch? Here's one. This is the biggest one. I can't believe we saved this for last. This should have followed that. This is what you do to me, Joe. You throw me off. You're like
I blame me.
Yeah, this is like when I met my wife. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't even think straight. This is what Joe does.
Two soulmates in your life, me and your wife.
Yes, exactly. We buried the lead.
The best out of
100% buried the lead. If you're still listening, we are now finally talking Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston. Didn't go the entire show.
Make the people wait for what you really want. That's how they keep
exactly. Or just tune out by the time we get to the good stuff, and they say, "Why didn't you listen to us?" Because we tuned out 30 minutes ago.
Hey, stay with us all the way to the end, so you get that Quentin Johnston Josh Palmer conversation.
Well, I wasn't expecting it. Maybe I'll throw the little tag on the beginning.
Professional
so,
like me would have, but
Josh Palmer out there almost 4 times as much as Joshua Palmer so far. Or Joshua Palmer out there. There's 2 Josh. There's Josh Palmer and Joshua Palmer. They're friends also with De'Von Achane. Those are all friends. All these guys.
And Zook Moose.
Zook Moose. Palmer's been the guy. Do you now talent? We're not going to have the conversation. Quentin Johnston, if he hits, if he is who we think he is, potentially, of course, he could fail in the NFL. Period. But if we think who he is, on paper, he's the better talent. However, that doesn't matter so far. Is Joshua Palmer the better play going forward? Further notice he's the better waiver pickup than Quentin Johnston if they're both out there? Or is the upside of Johnston, now that this door is open, similar like if Marvin Mims, if Jerry Jeudy got hurt again, we've seen so much that it's like, you got to do it at this point.
Even when Jeudy was hurt, Mims wasn't on the field enough.
I know. Stupid. That's what I'm saying. So, like, is this going to be a Mims situation for Johnston? And the answer is Palmer. Or do you think there's hope for Johnston to potentially surpass him?
It's a very provocative question, Jake Ciely. My answer is this. If you're 0-3, it's Josh Palmer because you didn't have time to wait and find out. If you're 3-0, it's Quentin Johnston.
Good answer. Would you start Josh Palmer this week, though?
Yeah, you have to start Palmer over Johnson until Johnson sees the field, unless you get miraculous reports.
Well, here's one.
Last
one before we get out of here. By the way, make sure you're following Joe Pisapia at Joe Pisapia 17. Make sure you're checking him out over at Fantasy Pros, the podcast, all the good stuff. Anything else you want to throw out?
I host Betting Pros. I hosted Sports Grid Sunday mornings, the football show, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm everywhere. I'm the king of all media. I'm also a TikTok influencer now. I don't know if you know that. I've done some TikToks recently. They're blowing up.
So,
very famous.
Breaking news: Joe Pisapia and I are no longer friends. So
why? Because I'm big on TikTok?
Because you're doing the tickety-tocketies?
I never understood it. And then I realized it's just about being an idiot. And I was like, well, I can do that. So now I'm
I should be the number 1 TikTok person then.
You should see so. I'll send you my favorite one I've done so far. I think you'll enjoy it. So go ahead.
All right. I put Joshua Palmer at 32. That is destroying consensus. I think people aren't awake yet on this, because as you mentioned, haven't fully updated ranks. Some people just kind of copy paste their ranks at the beginning of the week.
Well, it's I don't do mine until this afternoon, typically.
Here's the direct list as we get out of here, right behind Joshua Palmer. I'm going to run down over at The Athletic. By the way, just what is today? The 27th? You have 3 more days for the $1 a month thing to go on, which is just crazy. So here are the names directly behind Joshua Palmer. You tell me, throw out the biggest one that you might think is egregious, biggest 2 or 3. Let's go. Joshua Palmer, Gabe Davis, Michael Thomas, Christian Kirk, Jordan Addison, Tutu Atwell, DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy.
I think there's a lot of egregious ones in there. I'm just going to leave it at that because I know Vegas is bad. Joshua Palmer, I've seen the Joshua Palmer show. It's okay.
And he hit when Mike Williams was out because he plays outside. He didn't hit when Keenan Allen was out last year because last year Keenan Allen was almost exclusively the slot.
It's a good point. I would think most of those guys, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of the time there, but I think most of those guys I would still start above.
Well, that's Palmer. Why they can go follow you. And go see,
but I understand
why. Watch your tweets. Is saying Jake is an idiot.
Why? I don't think Jake is an idiot all the time. I think that this one slid it in there. But no, I think that I understand where you're coming from. I think it's good process, but in terms of the rankings, again, when you're starting.
Well, here's why. I think Josh Palmer and Gabe Davis are in the same conversation. Let's move on from him. Michael Thomas, more floor. Floor, absolutely. Fair. Love Michael Thomas.
No, these two I don't have the issue with.
Christian Kirk, floor. Great floor. Jordan Addison, he's still running 3rd. Is he a touchdown? Sure. If he doesn't, I think he's in the same conversation.
I like more than Palmer.
Okay. DJ Moore, you're going to either... DJ Moore is either 10 or 65. There's no in between. There's just... That's where he's going to finish. So, same conversation. DeAndre Hopkins, same conversation. Chris Godwin is floor.
I'm okay with him over Hopkins.
Is Chris Godwin benchable?
Floor is good.
Baker Mayfield doesn't know he exists.
He doesn't. Well, this is my big thing again going into the season, Jake. We did a lot of shows together. I have 0 shares of anybody in Tampa. There's just some offenses I completely stayed away from. Tennessee, Tampa. I just don't want these offenses. They're not good offenses. So why am I investing them in fantasy? I want good quarterbacks and good offenses that are going to give people football. Now, unfortunately, I also had some Breece Hall and some Garrett Wilson because theoretically I was like, okay, well, that's going to get a lot better. But that did not happen. But in terms of process, right now, if you look at where Josh Palmer is, he's 45. Rashid Shaheed is at 49. Would you rather play Shaheed?
Not with Winston.
Okay, that's fair. Just curious. Quentin Johnston's at 51 so far in the early rankings too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I already got hate for that. I was like, really?
Would you play Christian Watson over Josh Palmer this week? I would.
If I get the fully healthy, ready to go tonight, yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Or tomorrow.
Well, let's get it tonight. Let's just get it now. I don't want to wait.
Let's get a chain for the turquoise letter. We all love the turquoise letter. We love Joe Pisapia. Make sure you're following him. This is why we have so much fun, and we've been friends as long as we have. And all the good stuff at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros and everything he does. And maybe we'll find a way to injure Chris Meany or something so you get to fill in again before.
Oh, when Chris Meany goes on his honeymoon someday, I'll come back again too. And,
so in 3 years? All right.
Is that what it's going to take? It's not going to take 3 years to get married. I am always happy to come on. I'll come on with both of you. I love coming. Wednesdays are good for me too. Wednesdays is the light day. So anytime.
Well, speaking of Wednesdays, if Rory's still watching, I'll see the married CG for my church tonight with Nicole, and we'll see you guys on Monday as Joe makes a weird smile. Bye, De'Von Achane.